whether he was in the water or on the ground or in the forest or in the bushes. And he would loudly cry out. Swarup Damodar would perform kirtan alone with the whenever the Lord would fall in the forest or in the bushes, Swarup Damodar would catch hold of him. The limit of Swarup Damodar's good fortune is found only in Swarup Damodar himself. One day, Mahaprabhu became completely absorbed in ecstatic love and fell in a well. Seeing this, Advaita Acharya and the other devotees became bewildered. And they began crying as they held their heads in their hands. The Lord was enjoying ecstatic love, so he did not understand what had happened. He simply floated in the well like a child. When the Lord fell, the well became like butter, so his body was not scratched. This was not very wonderful. By the influence of devotional service, a Vaishnava also does not feel the pain of a thorn he steps on while dancing. Advaita Prabhu and the other devotees then quickly pulled the Lord out of the well. The Lord did not understand that he had fallen in the well. He therefore asked the devotees, "What's going on? Why are you crying?" The Lord was relishing the mellows of ecstatic love and was unaware of external events. He inquired from others as if he did not know what had happened. Hearing the nectarian words from the mouth of the Lord, the devotees headed by Advaita Prabhu floated in ecstasy. As the Lord was enjoying the mellows of devotional service in this way, he understood that Pundarik Vidyanidhi had arrived. As soon as the Lord remembered him, Pundarik Vidyanidhi came there to meet him. When the Lord saw Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he smiled and said, "My father has come, my father has come." Sri Premanidhi, so Mahaprabhu, his name is Pundarik Vidyanidhi, but Lord Chaitanya would call him sometimes Premanidhi, the ocean of Prema. His position, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, was in Krishna Lila, was Radharani's father. What was Radharani's father's name? Rishabhanu. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was Rishabhanu in Krishna Lila. So in the mood of Radharani, he would say, "My father has come, my father has come." Sri Premanidhi became overwhelmed in ecstatic love, and his heart became filled with all auspiciousness. The Supreme Lord Sri Gaurachandra, who is affectionate to his devotees, embraced Premanidhi and began crying. The Vaishnavas on all sides began to weep as they experienced the complete happiness of Vaikuntha. The Lord and the assembled devotees' affection for Premanidhi increased incessantly. Damodar Swarup was his old friend, and now they met each other in the presence of the Lord. They both desired the dust of the other's feet, so they pulled and pushed each other, fell on the ground. So the place where Pundarik Vidyanidhi resided was the same place where Gadadhar Pandit worshipped the deity Gopinath. So those of you that have been to Puri, the Tota means kind of like a garden. The Tota Gopinath. And that's where Pundarik Vidyanidhi stayed, was where Gadadhar Pandit stayed and his spiritual master and disciple. So Gadadhar Pandit in Krishna's Leela was Radharani, and Radharani's father, Rishabhanu, is his spiritual master. And they stayed together at Tota Gopinath. While residing in Nilachala, he regularly went to see Lord Jagannath. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was very dear to Swarup Damodar. They would go together to see Lord Jagannath and then enjoy discussing topics of Krishna. Soon, the time came for the festival called Odhana Sasthi. On this occasion, Lord Jagannath wears a new dress. And Bhaktisiddhanta's purport, because Lord Jagannath in Sri Dampuri wears a new winter dress on the 6th day of the waxing moon in this month, November, December. This festival is called Odhana Sasthi. Odhana means to wear, and Shasti means 6th day. Odhana Sasthi. Or the festival of dressing Lord Jagannath. This festival has taken this name because Lord Jagannath wears a winter dress. This festival continues up to the 4th day of the waxing moon in month of Magh, or January, February, the next month. By the desire of Lord Jagannath, the servants dress him in a starched dress on this day. Lord Gaurasundar took all of his devotees and went to see this festival of Odhana Sasthi. Mridangas, muharis, conch shells, kettle drums, different other instruments were loudly played. On that day, Lord Jagannath wears various dresses. This festival continues from the 6th day of the waxing moon to the end of Magh, and to the end of the month of Magh, January, February, just several months. The offering of dresses goes on till the end of night. Lord Chaitanya watched this festival with his devotees. He floated in waves of ecstatic love. Lord Chaitanya was himself the worshipper and the object of worship. But without his mercy, who could understand his mind? In the form of the deity, the Lord sat on the throne, and in the form of a sannyasi, he practiced devotional service. Fine, white, yellow, and blue silk clothes decorated with pearls and gold were offered to the deity form of the Lord. After Lord Jagannath was dressed, he was decorated with flower ornaments, flower bangles, and a flower crown, and flower garlands. Jagannath was then worshipped with 16 items, like sandalwood pulp, flowers, incense, and ghee lamps. He was then offered various types of foodstuffs. After the Lord saw this festival in the company of all his associates, he returned to his residence, absorbed in ecstatic love. After sending all the Vaishnavas home, the Lord remained alone in his own ecstatic mood. All the devotees left for their respective residences except Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who remained with Swarup Damodar. They would both disclose their minds to each other without hesitation. After seeing Lord Jagannath wearing starched cloth, Pundarik Vidyanidhi developed doubt. He asked them, why do they offer starched dress to Lord Jagannath? These and smrtis are washed. So why is starched cloth offered before it is washed? Swarup Damodar replied, please listen. There's no fault in this, because that is the custom of this place. If this was not the desire of Lord Jagannath, then why hasn't the king stopped it? Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, the Lord may do as he likes, but why do the servants imitate the activities of the Lord? Why do the priests, the pujaris, the temple superintendents, and the servants touch the unwashed cloth? Lord Jagannath is the supreme controller. For him, everything is possible. But how can the others imitate his activities? If one touches starched cloth, he should wash his hands to purify himself. Why don't such learned persons follow this injunction? The government officers are ignorant because they do not consider this. The king even wraps this starched cloth on his head. Damodar Swarup replied, please listen, my dear brothers. I think there's no fault in this Odhana festival. The Supreme Brahman has incarnated as the deity of Lord Jagannath. Therefore, the rules and regulations do not apply to him. Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, please listen, brother. The deity of Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Brahman in all respects. He is not at fault, even if he violates the rules and regulations. But if all these others become Brahman by staying in Nilachala, here's Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary. Following local custom, the king would wrap an unwashed starched cloth around his head. Yet, the Smriti injunction is that starched cloth is impure. Although this custom of wearing starched cloth is permissible for the Supreme Lord, it is proper for his servants to always remain in a pure state. Same message. Pundarik continues. They have given up the proper etiquette and have become like incarnations of the Supreme Brahman. While speaking in this way, they laughed again and again as they walked down the road. And laughed and discussed whether Jagannath's servants were at fault. No one can understand the glories of the Lord's servants. Only Krishna knows their attachment for him. Krishna sometimes bewilders his devotee, and then, feeling compassion for him, he destroys his illusion. First, the Lord bewildered Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now you will see how the Lord destroyed his illusion. In this way, the two intimate friends went to their residences to perform their Krishna consciousness duties. After taking their meals, they went to Gauranga's residence for some time. Then they returned to their residences and took rest. In his form as Lord Jagannath, the omniscient Lord Chaitanya appeared before Pundarik Vidyanidhi in a dream. Vidyanidhi Mahasaya saw Lord Jagannath and Balaram appear before him in a dream. Vidyanidhi saw Lord Jagannath catch hold of him and slap his face in an angry mood. The two brothers, Jagannath and Balaram, slapped him on his cheeks so hard that his swollen face bore impressions of their fingers. Now we don't see fingers. Feeling distress, Vidyanidhi fell at their feet and prayed, "Krishna, save me! Forgive my offenses." What was the offense? Fault finding. As a result of Vidyanidhi's finding fault with the behavior of Jagannath's servants, Sri Jagannath and Sri Balaram appeared in a dream before Vidyanidhi and profusely slapped him on the face. Vidyanidhi asked Kanai and Balai why they were unnecessarily punishing him. What was his offense? When his offense was disclosed, he begged pardon from them. Pundarik said, "Oh Lord, for what offense are you beating me?" The Lord replied, "There is no end to your offenses. I do not belong to any caste, and my servants also do not belong to any caste. You should have learned this while staying here. Why then are you staying in a place where you will lose your caste? If you want to protect your caste, you better go home. I have inaugurated the traditional observance of this festival. How then can you think that there's any improper behavior in it? You accept me as a supreme Brahman, but you offend my servants by finding fault in their dressing me with starched cloth." Vidyanidhi felt great fear. He therefore placed his head at the lotus feet of the Lord and cried, "Please forgive the offense of this most sinful person. I am defeated. I apologize. O Lord, with this mouth I have laughed at your servants, so you have properly punished that mouth. This is the auspicious beginning of a new day, for my face and forehead were touched by your lotus hand." The Lord replied, "I punish you to bestow mercy on you, for I consider you my servant." In this way, the two brothers, Jagannath and Balaram, mercifully glanced on Premanidhi in his dream and then returned to their temple. After seeing this dream, Pundarik Vidyanidhi woke up. Then he saw the slap marks on his cheeks and began to laugh. His cheeks were swollen from the slapping of the lotus hands of the Supreme Lord. Seeing this, Pundarik said, "This is very good. I have received punishment for my offense, yet the Lord has mercifully awarded me only a token punishment." Just see the glories of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. This is the limit of the Lord's mercy on his devotees. The Lord did not slap even his own son Pradyumna to teach him in this way. The Lord's associates and consorts like Janaki, Rukmini, and Satyabhama as well as the various gods and goddesses, are directly punished if they commit an offense, but to receive the Lord's mercy by being punished in a dream is rarely seen. Someone who received punishment or wealth in a dream has nothing to show for it when he wakes up. But if the Lord punishes or bestows mercy on someone in a dream, the results are seen by everyone. There is no one so fortunate in this world, for the Lord does not speak to non-devotees in dreams. By analyzing this incident, one can directly understand that because the Yavanas engage in blasphemy and violence, they can never see the Lord in their dreams, even if they want to. What to speak of Yavanas, even respectable Brahmanas who constantly commit offense, attain miseries in this life and in the next as a result of their offenses. Yet, the Lord does not teach such sinful non-devotees in their dreams. A person who receives instructions from the Lord in a dream considers himself most fortunate. Evidence of the mercy Sri Premanidhi received when he was beaten by the Lord in a dream could be seen by everyone. His cheeks were all swollen. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi got up in the morning, he could feel with his hands. His cheeks were swollen. Swarup Damodar would come every day, and the two would go together to see Lord Jagannath. When Swarup Damodar came, as he did regularly, he began to speak to Vidyanidhi. Every morning, you come with me to see Jagannath. Why haven't you gotten up today? Vidyanidhi replied, "Oh, brother, please come and sit down and I will explain everything." When Swarup Damodar came near, he saw that Pundarik Vidyanidhi's cheeks were swollen with slap marks. Swarup Damodar asked him, "What is this? Why are your cheeks swollen? Did you get hurt?" Pundarik Vidyanidhi smiled and said, "Please listen, brother. All my doubts were vanquished last night. Look at my cheeks and see the evidence of the punishment I received because of criticizing the offering of starched clothes to Lord Jagannath. Last night, Lord Jagannath and Balaram appeared before me in a dream and continually slapped me for 2 dandas, 48 minutes. 48 minutes. You ready? 48 minutes?
Yeah,
That's a lot of minutes. And he's a powerful Lord, Balaram and Jagannath. Ooh. They both slapped my cheeks while saying, "You have criticized the clothes we wear. See the marks of their fingers on my cheeks. I was unable to pacify them. I am too embarrassed to speak to anyone. I will go out only after my cheeks become normal. It is not proper to tell others about this incident, oh brother, in my heart. I consider myself most fortunate. I have received a proper punishment for my offense. Otherwise, I would have fallen into a blind well. Seeing the Lord's affection towards Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Swarup Damodar floated in ecstasy. As one becomes happy upon seeing the good fortune of a friend, that both laughed in great happiness. Damodar Swarup said, "Listen, my brother, I have never heard about or seen such a wonderful punishment. The Lord appeared in a dream and personally punished you. I have never before heard such a thing. But I can directly see that you have been punished. In this way, the two friends floated in happiness and forgot whether it was day or night as they continually enjoyed topics of Krishna. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta's purport is 3 pages long. And in those 3 pages, he's describing ecstatic exchanges between devotees. I'm going to read a little bit. Here's Canto 4, Chapter 20. My dear highly glorified Lord, if one in the association of pure devotees hears even once the glories of your activities, he does not, unless he is nothing but an animal, give up the association of devotees. For no intelligent person would be so careless as to leave their association. The perfection of chanting and hearing about your glories was accepted by even the goddess of fortune, who desires to hear of your unlimited activities and transcendental glories. The next is Nirvita Tireshire Rupa Giyamana verse, Canto 10, Chapter 1, verse 4, celebrated verse. Bhavocha Dashrotra Manovi Rama. You know the verse? Then later is chapter 13, 10:13. Tamayasara Britam Nisargo. Paramahamsas, devotees who have accepted the essence of life, are attached to Krishna in the core of their hearts. And Krishna is the aim of their lives. It is their nature to talk only of Krishna at every moment, as if such topics were newer and newer. They are attached to such topics just as materialists are attached to topics of women and sex. So here's a Hari Bhakti Vilas reference. Although sages are equally qualified in terms of Vedic study and austerity, and although they saw friends, enemies, and neutral parties equally, they chose one of their number to be the speaker and the rest to be the listener. Although one personally engages in Vaishnava Dharma, he should make inquiries from like-minded devotees to increase his love. So he's here describing the relationship between Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Swarup Damodar. Equals enjoying confidential discussions with one another. Such was the influence of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, but Gaurachandra would address him as father. Pundarik Vidyanidhi would not take bath in the Ganges in fear of touching her with his feet. He would simply take darshan of the Ganges and drink the water. Lord Gauranga would cry profusely and call out the name of devotee. Oh, Father Pundarika. Whoever hears the characteristics of Pundarik Vidyanidhi will certainly achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. So congratulations, Prabhu. And that's the end of the chapter. And not at the end of the chapter, it's the end of the book. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends the English translation of Antya Kanda, chapter 10, entitled Glories of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, end of Antya Kanda. Nice way to end the chapter. within the book. The variegatedness of the associates of Lord Chaitanya is quite amazing. There was a group, while many of us were participating in a yatra, visiting places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. There was a group of 40 devotees that spent 5 hours a day reading Chaitanya Charitamrita together at our ISKCON Govardhan project. And there were some online people also. I know for a fact, Vaisheshika Prabhu was one of those persons. He has a vision of increasing, as it was done and successfully, in the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam sets. So now next is Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. So spending 5 hours a day for 28 days reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm sure his tank is full. So with that in mind, every year we have a winter retreat in Chicago, and the theme is personalities from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anticipating that's going to be the topic. Increasing Chaitanya Charitamrita. So hearing the descriptions of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, there's something very special about that. Actually doing that in Vrindavan. And hearing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's associates is like that also. In many cases, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are eternal associates, and they're just manifesting a relationship with him in different ways. But with the understanding that they're actually eternal associates. But the essence of it is loving exchange. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi is a nice example. This Odhana Sasthi event. Today's Odhana Sasthi on the calendar. So it starts, and as we heard, it goes for a couple of months. Because it's the colder season. But it's I don't know how cold. It's surely not cold like here. Cold for there. And loving exchange. But being punished generally is not considered to be wonderful. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the way that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, a little different than Vrindavan Das Thakur's mood. He writes that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was feeling envy. And that was the place from which the criticism was being made. The way that this reads is, he was concerned about following rules. And Jagannath doesn't have to follow rules, but we do. And we're not Jagannath, we're not beyond the rules. So we follow rules. So why they must know what the rules are. Why are they not following them? Now, Sadhu Ninda, right?
Yeah.
It's a big topic. Big topic. In this case, very clearly, it's a transcendental exchange. And we heard specifically Bhaktisiddhanta say, for pastime purpose, he was inspired by Krishna to speak the way that he spoke, to feel the feelings that he felt, to speak the way that he spoke. There wasn't malice. It was inspired. And his wish was the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. At least that was the external appearance. But Lord Jagannath didn't appreciate criticizing his devotees, his dedicated followers. And specifically, it is he that established the policy, the procedure for this Odhana Sasthi. They're just following what he established. There's a tendency, modern tendency, to be innovative. And when it comes to our Vaishnava life, one has to be very careful about being innovative. On the other hand, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada were both very innovative. And their innovation was based upon a spiritual principle. The spiritual principle is all things have their origin in Krishna. So things that have their origin in Krishna, when used in Krishna's service, we heard this during the discussion from Light of the Bhagavad. When things that are in relation to Krishna are used in service to Krishna, the spiritual potency of those things is restored and manifest. I'll give one example. There's been so many. Here's two examples. There's a celebrated photograph of Bhaktisiddhanta riding in a convertible at a time when people didn't have convertibles. There were cars that were just starting up, but they didn't have convertibles. Bhaktisiddhanta is riding in a convertible, waving through the streets of Vrindavan, making a statement. Yukta Vairagya. He wasn't interested in comfort. He wasn't interested in here's a cool car. He was interested in making a statement about using things that have come from Krishna and Krishna's service. I remember very clearly the first time we had a Mayapur Vrindavan festival. One of the temples we were taken to wasn't a Gaudiya temple, it was a Sri Vaishnava temple. But in that Sri Vaishnava temple, it had a very large courtyard area. And in that large courtyard area was I don't know how to best describe it, a landscape made of plaster of Paris. And it showed, here's Varsana, there's Nandagram, and over here is Govardhan Hill. And the machine, it had a series of chains underneath. So by cranking the chains, Krishna and the cowherd boys would leave Nandagram and go to the pasturing ground and drink water at the river Jamuna. And then you have to wind the thing back. There, go back. You can hear the chains moving underneath. And it was a way in Vrindavan of depicting Krishna's pastimes. using technology at the time. Fast forward, technology became more advanced. Prabhupada, following Bhaktisiddhanta, did the same with the Fate, first American theistic exhibit, Fate Museum. And there was a very interesting procedure that Prabhupada followed. There was a few devotees that had carved the first Jagannath deities. You may know that story. You know the story? Here's the story. Malati, many of you know Malati, went to a Pier 1 import store and found these little figures. She looked, boy, this looks Indian. And she brought them to show Prabhupada, what is this? And it was Jagannath carved in a little, the little ones. It's all one piece of wood and like that. So she showed it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada immediately paid his obeisances, called in her husband, Shamsundar, and said, can you make deities like this, carved deities of wood? He'd never done it before. But, Prabhupada asked him to do it, so he did it. And they carved Lord Jagannath. And then after the festival, the second year, they built a Rath cart from nothing, and then they built another Rath cart. So they asked Prabhupada, what's next? These devotees that had artistic skills. So some of them, Prabhupada sent to Mayapur to learn how to build, he called it dolls. The system in Mayapur was by using straw and clay, then figures were made, Durga and Kali, but the method was to make the figure, then you make a mold, and then you can make replicas of that mold. So Prabhupada wanted his artists to learn that method and then come back to America and make this doll exhibit. And then he, had his idea. He had a very clear idea, just like we heard a very clear idea of what he wanted for the Light of the Bhagavad paintings. Very clear idea what he wanted for the Fate exhibit. The changing bodies diorama, and Krishna with the gopis diorama, Krishna with cows diorama, illustrate messages from scripture in the form of visual, using the technology at the time, which was different than the cranking thing. The cowherd boys went to drink water in the river Jamuna and then went back. The principle of Yukta Vairagya is very nice, but that kind of creativity is one thing. Then it's another thing, I'll just point it out. I mentioned that during Prabhupada's time, the Goswami of the Radharaman temple was a very dear friend and supporter of Srila Prabhupada, Vishvambar Goswami. It was Vishvambar Goswami that spoke to the other the Radha Damodar temple Goswami to rent the rooms that he had there to Prabhupada. It was Vishvambar Goswami that oversaw the installation of Krishna Balaram, because he was known as being the most qualified person in deity worship in all of Vrindavan, as was Gadadhar Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Very, very, very accomplished in deity worship. His son became the next Goswami, Padmanabha Goswami. Similarly to his father, was very supportive of ISKCON, helped in so many ways. I remember Padmanabha Goswami coming on a tour in America. It was really fantastic. He just had all these different photos describing, from his point of view as the Goswami, what this festival was about, and how they decorated the deity this way at that festival, and how they decorated the deity that way. And he was just flowing with love for Radharaman in the different ways that he was worshipped. It was filled with love for Radharaman, and naturally filled us. His son has become creative in a way that has nothing to do with Yukta Vairagya. So one devotee in our group showed me a photo of this new, I forget his name, but he has different tilak. He has tilak that resembles Sri Vaishnava tilak, because Gopal Bhatta came from the Sri Vaishnava family. But Gopal Bhatta was very, very clearly, and his uncle who gave him Diksha was very, very, very clearly a Gaudiya follower. Prabodhananda Saraswati was the Diksha guru of Gopal Bhatta, and he was an ardent follower of Lord Chaitanya. So down, here comes this Goswami that's now getting creative, and he has other teachings that he teaches, and it's a disturbance. Another tilak. But so I remember specifically when we went to see that arti, the Pujari had very clear, proper tilak. I don't know if you noticed. I noticed. So, but the head fellows now got some other tilak and some other ideas and some other, who knows what's going to happen over time. So preserving tradition is important. But there are ways in which tradition can be adjusted without disturbing principles. Prabhupada speaks about this or writes about it in Nectar Devotion. There's details and there's principles. So what was being discussed here by Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Srup Damodar is it okay to do something that's not to be done? And then the answer is Lord Jagannath himself established this is to be done. So otherwise it's not to be done. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. And proper training and maintaining standards. The purpose of maintaining standards is Krishna is to be pleased. This particular item of cleanliness, what Pundarik Vidyanidhi was saying is true. He didn't say something false, he said something scriptural. On the other hand, something scriptural is Lord Jagannath gives very, very detailed descriptions in forget which of the Puranas, Shiva Purana? One is how he wanted his worship to go on. Which of the Puranas is it? The whole story of Indradumna, King Indradumna, and finding Jagannath, etc., etc. Whatever that Purana is. In the details of how his work, and so they're following it. Exactly as it says. They don't deviate. Generation after generation after generation after generation. Some things have been added and have become tradition, like, for example, the singing of Gopi Gita, the song, the writings of Jayadev. It's now something that happens. The Devi Dasis come in at a certain time in the afternoon and they sing. But that was added, but for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. And that was part of their worship. I mean, reason for bringing this up is it's part of the Odhana Sasthi pastime. How do you decide? Certainly you don't criticize. Lord Jagannath doesn't like that. Krishna doesn't like that. Lord Chaitanya doesn't like that. But upholding standards is important. So what do? Be careful. With the idea of pleasing the Supreme Lord, you may displease the Supreme Lord. If the activity is like an activity of criticism rather than upholding. So it's very like with the fornicators for the Chinese devotees. There's the purpose and there's the intention. Or excuse me, the goal, and there's the intention while striving to reach the goal. A really interesting section in Bhagavatam, when Arjuna brings Ashvatthama before Draupadi with his sword raised, and the discussion about what is to be done. Should he be killed because he's to be killed? Krishna said. And there's other reasons, scriptural reasons why he's to be killed. He's not to be killed for other scriptural reasons. So how do you decide what to be done, what's not to be done? It's difficult sometimes. Therefore, Mahajano Yena Katha Sapranta, that statement is there by Yudhisthira. You have to become familiar with the lives of great souls, so you have the guiding light to know turn left or turn right. Do this or do that. Speak up or don't say anything. And if you say something, how to say it. If you do something, how to do it. That's a privilege for those who are refined and spiritually elevated. Most of us aren't. What to do? Follow the great souls as best you can, and continue becoming, just as we did this evening. Read about how Jagannath and Balaram were not at all happy. At the same time, they gave him so much mercy. So he's a very special person. Okay, any discussion? Odhana Sasthi. Did you remember to bring some Mahaprasadam? Okay.
We have something to distribute.
You do. How about that? Bring it.
It's in Skanda Purana Maharaj.
Skanda Purana. That's it. That's it. Yes, thank you. From your memory or from your phone?
From Google.
Skanda Purana. Okay.
Maharaj, I have a question in that topic. Like, told,
Speak loud enough so people in the back can hear.
yeah. So, Jagannath told there is no caste discrimination in Jagannath Puri. If you have it like that, go your hometown and follow that. So, but other than Hindus are not allowed, right, currently in the temple. So how can we understand that? Other than Hindu caste, other castes are not allowed into the temple.
I don't know enough about what is said in scripture to answer your question. about this particular, what is said in the scripture about this particular point? I don't know. So I can't answer. I can inquire from people that live there, what's the reasoning behind it. And I don't know if it's even scriptural. It may be just traditional. Because there are two things. And tradition may not be scriptural. Tradition may be scriptural. Tradition may not be scriptural. Don't know.
And one more.
I'll inquire.
Yeah, sure. And you mentioned about yavanas. Like yavanas are like what type of? I'm not sure about exactly.
The term yavana is used in different ways in different circumstances. Like the followers of Kuvera are yavanas.
Yakshas.
Yakshas. Okay, yeah. Okay, excuse me. Yavanas.
Muslims, I think.
Huh?
Muslims are called Yavanas.
Huh?
Muslims.
Yeah, but there's other ways that it's also used, yavanas. I'm not clear. See what Google has to say.
I think in the verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they were considered a clan that sort of belongs to Pakistan.
Belongs to Pakistan.
That area, the Mughal.
Okay. I'm striking out this evening. Anything else? Okay, let's go distribute some prasadam.
Yes.
Right.